Hi, welcome to Rocky Mountain Views. I'm Martha Thompson, your host. And today we have as our guest Mike Ham. He is the business manager for Local 113 of the IBEW. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
It's a pleasure. I want to talk about unions, and I want to talk about some of the negative ideas about unions, positive ideas. I really want to get to some truth here, and obviously you have a very strong bias, but that's not what I've really heard about when I watch mainstream media.
Okay.
In watching mainstream media, I know about Jimmy Hoffa. I know about like a shady side of unions, and it's just all pretty negative. We're causing businesses to have to pay extra in labor. Where do these things? Obviously, Jimmy Hoffa was real, but that's a long time ago. What do you see as the role of unions today in society and for the worker?
Well, here locally I'll speak on because, we hear a lot of that. Mm-hmm. We live in Colorado Springs. Colorado Springs is predominantly anti-union. The mentality is anti-union. And when you explain that to people, you tell them, look, I'm just a regular Joe in the community, the guy that's probably sitting next to you at church. Personally, I'm the guy that helps coach my son's Little League team.
That's
so
great.
so when we're out in the community, we try to express that to people that, hey, we're union members. We're no different than anybody else. And as an electrician, we really want to come together as a union for better wages, better working conditions, and really regulation on the job.
Okay, regulation for what, safety or?
There's safety regulations, there's industry regulations, quality. As an electrician in the state of Colorado, you're required to work under licensed law. So as a journeyman, you have to have a state license. As an apprentice, you have to be registered. But in the state, we have a ratio that says one journeyman can work with 3 apprentices. We as a union come together and really try to help keep that legislation enforced, because for safety reasons, for homeowners in particular, if you've got a bunch of unqualified people wiring your house, then that's a fire hazard. So
that's true.
The unions want to come together and really, we want to enforce regulation.
Well, let me back up a little bit here.
Okay.
The negative ideas or image that people hold of unions, they didn't get there on their own.
No.
So some of that, is based on things that have happened and true stories that have happened.
That's true.
But I want to get to the truth of what things are today. So, you brought up an example of a homeowner. Is that homeowner, if they want to hire someone that is union, so they know those things of training and everything else are being honored, are they going to pay more? If I just need my stove hooked up and hire somebody, and I think, okay, unions are a good thing, but am I going to have to pay a lot more for that?
Not necessarily, no. Because you look at labor rates and what a union contractor charges versus a non-union contractor, and the rates are pretty close. And for whatever reason, the union worker is getting a livable wage. Mm-hmm. The union worker is getting medical benefits for his family, himself or herself, retirement benefits, and more often than not, the non-union worker, they don't get those benefits. But yet the wages, or I should say that's the service rates, are about the same from contractor to contractor. So
right. And I mean, personally, I want people to be able to have insurance and have benefits, and so I do see the logic behind wanting to hire someone for those reasons too. but I can't afford to pay extra.
Exactly.
So, we need to be smart about those things too.
And then I think there's been a lack of education on the union's parts. We've almost been our own best kept secret for too many years, and we let the misconceptions just swirl, and we just step back and we don't acknowledge it. And I think now there's a different generation moving forward. We've seen our union density drop over the past 30 years. In the sense of membership, we've lost membership over the last 30 years. And here locally, we do everything we can to try to keep moving forward. We try to educate our city council members. We try to educate the school boards. We do whatever we can to get out to show that, hey, we're not the Jimmy Hoffas of the past. We're not, we're pretty decent people. We contribute to the churches. We get out in the community. We do community service. Not only court-ordered community service, but other community service too. No, we really do. We're active in the community, and when somebody needs a hand, when somebody is down on their luck, we're there to help. The strikes.
Let's talk about strikes.
Okay.
And now I know that also another thing that I've looked into is, all unions are not the same. So let's just speak to your union.
Okay.
What is the probability that someone who's hiring union workers is going to have to deal with a strike?
The IBEW and its construction agreements actually has a binding arbitration clause, which means we will not strike. We won't strike, nor will the employers lock us out. So if we come to a grievance procedure and we don't see resolution, then we go to a labor management committee. If we don't get resolution at that committee, and that committee is made up of both labor and management, if we don't see resolution there, then it goes back to Washington, D.C., and it goes in front of a council, and their decision is final and binding. We cannot strike. During contract negotiations, if we find that we can't agree on whatever we're trying to negotiate, then we end up back in Washington, D.C. at council, and that's our arbitrator, and their decision is final and binding. So you can present your case here locally, and if it doesn't work, then you go back to D.C., and the decision's handed down right there.
And that's where head offices are?
That's where our international office is. So we don't, a customer wouldn't have to worry about losing their electrical workers to a strike, because we don't do it.
Okay, all right. And you had also spoken to, well, if there aren't jobs available right now in what they're doing, that there are other things that they can be doing. Do you help people to do those things, or how do they find out about that?
Well, we do, because our local union is unique in a sense that it's not just electrical workers that we represent. We represent the maintenance workers on Fort Carson, on the Air Force Academy, out at Peterson Air Force Base, and also Buckley Air Force Base.
Okay.
So if our construction workers find periods of unemployment, or they get to a point where their body's not holding up anymore, then we'll try to transition them into some of those jobs, into a less physical. I mean, it's not that they don't have to work, but it's not as physically demanding as construction is. If they don't want to do that, if those jobs aren't available, then we'll try to find them something in the community. I mean,
that's great.
We're here to represent the members, but we also look at it as an extension of the family. I mean, everybody, we treat our members and everybody like we want to be treated.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Now, training. So if someone decides that they want to be a part of this, what do they need to do? Because there are a lot of people who, they're smart, they've got a great work ethic, they want to be working, and we're still struggling for employment right now. What's that process like? What do they do? Do you provide education?
We do.
Talk to me about that.
We have the best training facility, training programs, as far as the IBEW is concerned in the country. Our apprenticeship programs are second to none, and they're all at the local level. So every local union their jurisdiction will have their own joint apprenticeship and training committee, which is their JATC. So if somebody's interested in that, they'll usually contact the local union hall. We'll get them information to get over to the JATC. They make application there. And during their training, during their apprenticeship, it's a 5-year apprenticeship, they're going to school 2 nights a week. They pay a small amount for tuition. Everything else is covered through contributions made by their employer because they're working during the day. So they become indentured, they become a member of the union, and we find them employment for the next 5 years. And
Really?
Once they get out of the apprenticeship program, they can either stay with their current employer, or they can travel the country, travel the world. I mean, at that point in time, they're journeyman wiremen, and we send them on the way.
That's super.
So while they're indentured from the beginning, they're getting contributions made on their behalf through our collective bargaining agreement by the employer towards health benefits, retirement, and a contribution towards their apprenticeship. Plus, they're making a livable wage. So it's a great trade.
Impressive.
It is. It's a great trade to be in. And like I say, it's second to none. The training is phenomenal. When you turn out, you should be able to do everything.
Wow.
Electrically.
Right.
You ask any electrician, any journeyman wireman that's come through their program, not just electrically, we'll do carpentry, plumbing. We'll do it all, don't ask.
Okay. Well, let me switch gears a little bit and talk about, you said Colorado isn't known for being, particularly union friendly, and I know that this is a right-to-work state. Yes?
No.
No, this is not a right-to-work state.
No, Colorado is not a right-to-work state. It's been brought forth in legislation in the past. I think the last big push was 2008. And at that time, Governor Ritter reached out to business. Labor was adamantly against it. But business, for some reason, got on board and said, you know what, this is bad. Right to work is bad. Because when you start getting rid of unions, you start losing standards, you start losing regulation. The median wage goes down. I mean, when right to work is union busting legislation.
How? How is that?
With right to work, if you are in a union, you belong to XYZ union.
Okay.
And all of those members in that union have the choice whether or not to pay dues. The leadership of that union has to represent every one of those members, regardless of if they pay dues or not, if they become a member or not. So it's a way to weaken the unions because you're having to represent those members, although they're not paying for representation.
Okay. Well, and one of the states that is now right to work is Michigan, which is staggering to me then because that's something I didn't think I'd ever see with the auto industry. How did that happen, and what's that doing to their unions?
Not being there. I don't want to speak for them, but you can see that, and just from what I've heard, they reached out and tried to partner with the Republicans in Michigan. The governor said, I'm on your side. I won't sign right to work. I'm going to be your friend. We may not agree on everything, but I will not sign right to work. And they went ahead and did it anyway. He signed the right to work legislation. They're now right to work. What it's doing to them, it's too new. It's too fresh right now, so I can't speak on what it's doing to them yet. But you can just see it's going to be a decline. You look at the right to work states in the country, and their average minimum wage is far less than non-right to work states. That's why when Boeing wanted to build, they wanted to go south. They didn't want to stay in Washington and Oregon and the Northwest. They wanted to go south. They wanted to go to the southern states because they were right to work.
And those people are probably not making a living wage, or many of them?
I wouldn't think they were.
Okay. Now, with politics, because you brought up politics,
Mhm.
that's another commonly held belief that unions have tremendous political clout. What is your understanding about that? I know it's a big question.
It is a big question. And at this point, and I can't speak for unions as a whole.
Oh no,
But
no, and I understand.
I will speak my personal belief
Okay.
that I think the Republicans and the Democrats have become the party of one. I don't believe that either party is looking out for the working people of this country.
Really?
I don't feel, and I'm not going to say that's every Democrat or that's every Republican. I'm just saying, from my point of view, what we've seen is if you ask for help for working people's legislation, why can't you get it? Why is it so tough to get, if we've got a Democratic president and we've got a Democratic Senate, shouldn't they be able to figure out a way to work with the Republicans to get the funding, say, for more National Labor Relations Board agents? Shouldn't they get more funding for OSHA inspectors? I mean, these are working people's issues. They're OSHA with the safety. Shouldn't we have more inspectors?
Yeah.
And to me, it just seems like we've gotten so lost and dependent on politics, because for years the Democrats did support labor, and I think labor got complacent in a sense of they're going to do it for us. Now's the time for us, and I'm hoping that this generation, my generation, realizes it. Stand up and do for yourself. No more of this, they're going to do it so I don't have to.
Right.
We're going to do it. We're going to push it forward. We're going to regain the strengths in unions so that the working people can retire with dignity, can have benefits throughout their career, can have good pensions, because they're killing our pensions. This country is taking our pensions. We're losing pensions. It's astounding, the rate that the defined benefit pension is going. Okay. Instead of having a defined benefit pension, corporate America says, you just need a 401k. You're going to be fine.
Right.
That's all you need.
Yeah.
Trust us.
Right.
So,
I think people in general are getting pretty tired of just trust us, because
I think so. Because we trusted in the government for so long. And I'm not saying that I don't want to partner up with the government. But last time I checked, we were the government. We're supposed to be the government. So we need to do what we want to have done. And if we move forward, then it doesn't matter what party is in D.C. They're going to listen to the working people of this country. I'm hopeful.
Yeah, I like that. Well, as I said in the opening, you're the business manager.
Yeah.
What are the responsibilities of a business manager? I mean, do you watch over everybody in your local, or how does that work?
The duties of the business manager they're lined out in our IBEW Constitution, but just to give you my opinion on what's supposed to be done, what I'm supposed to do.
Okay.
Negotiate the contracts. We have many different contracts in this local union. Represent the members. Help the members in their time of need, of course. Anything they need, we try to help them with. Our members, this local union's members, are, to me, the greatest members a local union could have. And I say that just because at any given time, they could leave. And they haven't. They've chose to stay here for this long. So we've got a good group of members that really take care of themselves. They don't rely on anybody else to take care of them. They want to make sure that the contracts are enforced, and they want somebody to negotiate on their behalf. And so as business manager, I do that, oversee the day-to-day operations of the office. I've got an assistant agent that helps out in getting out in the community, helping out with organizing, helping out with members. We've got a phenomenal staff here that anything that needs to get done, we can handle just like that. We're usually pretty quick. Within a day, we can have your questions answered. But also, as a business manager in this local union, responsible for the trust funds, for our health trust and our
Wow.
pension and annuity trust.
That's a huge responsibility.
So they are. When you're looking at, we're a 5-state district, so our trust funds cover those members in those 5 states. So you're responsible for those. You're a fiduciary to those funds. So if something happens with that money, you're in big trouble.
Right.
So you have to look over those funds. But not only that, you're responsible for promoting the local union and the benefits of that local union. So I encourage our members to get out, get involved in the community, get involved in your church, coach somebody's team, do whatever you can. Sit on city boards, county boards, run for school board, do whatever you can. So you have to be a leader. You have to help the members. You have to be there to answer questions. And if you don't know the answer, don't lie. You just tell them you'll get back with them.
Go find it.
That's right. That's right. So there's a
Wow.
lot of duties. There a lot of long hours, but you try to secure work. You try to organize the unrepresented through education. There's a lot of times that I'll be out walking a non-union job site, and then more running a non-union job site because they don't want you on there. You're not supposed to be out there. But just to talk to people, talk to the general contractors, talk to the electrical workers, and say, hey, this is what we have to offer. This is where we can help. If you need our assistance, come talk to me. So there's a lot of stuff that the business manager is responsible for in a local union.
Well, with everything that you've explained to me then, if someone does not want, you said, they don't want you out there when it's non-union, is it just money? Is it just about money? What's the reason to not, why would they not want it? If it's not, if it's such a great thing, why don't they want you there?
From a general contractor standpoint, he wouldn't want me out there because he sees me as slowing his job down. Okay, so I get that.
Okay.
I understand that. From a non-union electrical contractor standpoint, he also views me as slowing his job down, but he also sees me as the guy who's going to take his employees. That's a misconception. I'm not there to do that. I'm not there to do that. I'm there to actually educate those guys that are working on the job and the employer and the contractor. Here's how we can help. Here's what we have to offer. If you don't want anything to do with us, that's great. I walk away and I'll see you next week. I'll be back again. But it's anybody that's lived here for any amount of time has that, especially in construction, the non-union mentality because of the misconceptions. Somebody wronged somebody in the past. And I'll be the first to admit we have made many, many, many mistakes. The unions, when we had the monopoly on things, we became a country club. We shut our doors and said, you're not coming in. We'll use you while we need you. And then when you want to join membership, well, sorry, you have to go back. We're done with you. And we did that. We did that in the 70s. We're getting away from that. But we've made many mistakes. We've had to learn from them. And that's what I'm hopeful my generation can do. We can go out and educate, and we can't change what's happened in the past. We can't. We've done our wrongs, but I think moving forward we can change things.
But there are a lot of wrongs we could look at on both sides. I mean, that being an elitist is certainly a wrong, but it's also wrong to have sweatshops and have people working overtime and not paid for it too. So I see trouble, for both causing that. But in thinking of the employer again, if they have, let's say, 2 of your guys that are union and part of your local, they're doing a sloppy job. They're not performing up to their standards. Do you defend those guys? Do you try to get them back on track? What's your stance?
And we've got an open line of communication with our employers.
Okay.
We've got a group of employers that will call me If they see something going wrong on the job, they'll give me a call. I go out on the job and I investigate it. And I say, okay, well, there's three sides to every story. There's the employer, and then there's the member, and then it's somewhere in the middle is what's really going on. That's right. So if something is truly wrong, and we've got a member who say is laying down on the job, first thing I'm going to do is approach the member and say, were you laying down on the job? And if he was, then I'm going to find out. One, is there something going on in your life? Because like I said, we are a family. So if there's something going on, I'd like to know. If you're not comfortable telling me, then just say, yes, something's going on. And go home for the day. Go fix it, because you can't bring that stuff with you. If nothing's going on and they're just going to be lazy, then there are disciplinary actions that we can't defend. And the employer has every right to discipline that employee/member for not doing their job, because we're held to a higher standard. We do cost more money because we have insurance, we have a livable wage, we have retirement.
Okay.
So in that sense, we have to work. We put in our 8 for 8. We do a full 8 hours work for 8 hours pay. It's an honest living, and we truly believe that. So if we've got a member who's not upholding their end of the bargain, then they're usually down the road.
And you'll back the employer?
I won't back the member. I can't. I mean, the employer has every right through our collective bargaining agreement to manage their jobs. And if they've got an employee who's not doing right, then they have a disciplinary policy. They follow that policy, and that employee is usually terminated.
Okay, that's important. That's important for business owners, because in thinking that, okay, if I'm hiring union people and I get a bad apple, I'm stuck with them, which is why I was asking that question. You know, that's a nightmare for an employer.
It is. It's huge. And there again, like you said earlier, you started off, you said not all unions are the same.
Right.
In construction, we are in the business of putting ourselves out of a job. The second we hit the job site, we're looking to finish that job and be out of work.
I didn't think of that.
That's what we do.
Okay.
So we differ from manufacturing or service industries where you go to work every day and you're going to be at work for who knows how long.
Right. Okay.
In construction, we don't do that. So you hear of these unions that represent these members, and they're on the job and they're not doing. You hear the bad part of it. But like I said, with the three sides to every story, nobody ever says why that member was lazy or why that union person wasn't doing their job. Was it because they weren't given the correct tools, or for whatever reason? Nobody ever asked why was that person not doing their job. It's always those lazy union people.
Well, and bad news travels always. It's much more interesting to talk about, and frankly, it's why we have Rocky Mountain Views, because we like talking about the positive, good things. And I've got to say, I'm taking you at your word, and it sounds like you're doing some very, very good things for this community.